Hi everyone, Jason here from Off the Beaten Path. This video is a quick trip through the Grampians. Was recorded very late December 2021. I'd actually been back home to Hamilton to pick up my mum and took her on a short four-wheel drive trip through the Grampians. We came in from the south on Bullawin Road to Strachan's campground. You can see the route there marked in blue. We headed off on the Sawmill Track before turning left onto the Victoria Range Road, making our way north and then turning right onto the Goat Track, which brings you down onto the Siphon Road. Now this is all on the western part of the Grampians, which is an area probably least visited by tourists. As a rule, the Victoria Range Road, like the name suggests, is pretty easy going. It's full of long steady climbs rather than really steep sections. There are a few sections that are a little bit rough, so you definitely need a four-wheel drive. You don't particularly need a lot of clearance, but I wouldn't be taking your average two-wheel drive vehicle. From there, once you head out on the Siphon Road, there's a whole lot of options in getting back to the eastern side of the Grampians, which is the more touristy part. But this western valley here is hardly ever visited by tourists. And along the track there on the Victoria Range Road, you get really up close to quite a number of rock formations that most people probably don't even see. You can see a bit wider view there. We actually ended up heading via the Siphon Road through to the east and found our way out through Silverband Road, past Silverband Falls, and then made our way via the Redmond Track, which is one of the few eastern exits out of the Grampians. If you don't take the north or the south route, it actually makes its way through the pass. So here we are. This is just after stopping at Strachan's campground. We've aired down to just about 24-25 psi, and you can see there's our first wildlife sighting, little bush wallaby. He headed off the track fairly quickly. And as you can tell from the looks of those trunks, certain parts of the Grampian, and this part was one of those, that have been affected by bushfires in the last few years. We came through the Grampians in very late 2019, and there had been bushfires at that time. There was a lot of smoke around, so we just turned left there onto the Victoria Range Road off the Sawmill Track. So as you saw, that first section of the Sawmill Track is very much two-wheel drive. This section of the Victoria Range Road is pretty easy going as well. It's a gentle, steady climb, so there are those humps they put in to direct water off the track. But by and large, there's really nothing to be too concerned about. The odd bit of deadfall on the track. Basically, we just gradually worked our way up. Now, as I said, I was picking my mum up, so she's actually along for this trip, which worked out really well. She hadn't been off-road for quite some time and hadn't been through this part of the Grampians ever, despite having lived most of her life in the area. Now, when I've set the GoPro up here too, I've probably got it angled down towards the bonnet a little bit too much, so the camera angle's not ideal. You're probably seeing a little more of the bonnet and bull bar of the car and not as much of the scenery as would have been ideal. This is another one of those long steady climbs I was talking about. Like most of the Grampians, very scenic. So if you do find yourselves getting to the Grampians, I definitely recommend check out the Goat Track and the Victoria Range Road. So this is one of the rougher sections, a few loose rocks, a couple of small little rock steps. And we're just working our way over to the other side of the range, and some cracking views just up on that hill there to the right, looking out basically across that whole valley. On the left hand side, as you work our way along here, what you're not seeing is that at various parts of the track along there's some quite amazing rock formations. That's about as scary as the bog holes get on this track. A little puddle there is about the wettest part of the track that we found anyway. There certainly was evidence that this track can get soft at different times when there has been a lot of rain, but that wasn't the case when we were making our way through on this particular day. You can see a bit of rock there, just climbing up over that sheetrock. And again, it probably looks fairly similar in the videos, but the scenery was sort of constantly changing throughout this track. I've done this a few times. This is the first time filming it. And again, just a steady climb here with one of those humps to divert the water off the track. You can see it's a little bit loose, a little bit rocky, but nothing too difficult at all. Certainly something that if you're camping in the area with your family, you wouldn't need to worry about bringing them along for the ride, even if they weren't that into four-wheel driving. So this is in the morning, the sun's very bright. We headed off from Hamilton, I think, about 8:30, 9 o'clock, so it's probably about 10:30. Just taking it steady up over those rocks, as much for the comfort of the occupants as anything else. And you can see the track changed a little bit from gravel to rock, back to gravel, back to sort of clay. A little bit of everything. There's some sandier sections of the track as well. You can see here this part of the track's got a bit of clay and a bit of sand, and certainly some evidence of having had, well, the beginnings of ruts forming anyway. And this section here is, yeah, you can see obviously, look, when we've driven through, it's rock solid, but certainly evidence there that it has been soft at different times. Just working our way along the Victoria Range Road. So you can see there on the right some of the rock formations. It's a shame you're not seeing these in the frame of the camera, and I should have thought about that more, but we sort of had a long way to go when we were filming this, and didn't have a lot of time on our hands. All the more reason for you to head out to the Grampians and check it out for yourself. So the rocks were quite close to the track at various places, and as I said, there's some amazing rock formations. I think this western part of the Grampians is traditionally where a lot of rock climbers used to enjoy rock climbing. It's been significantly reduced in recent years in terms of the areas that you're allowed to rock climb in on the Grampians, and that's a whole nother issue. So yeah, as you're sort of getting the idea, the whole track pretty much just undulates. You work your way up and down over some ridge lines. And this sort of thing is about as difficult as it gets. Didn't get a lot of external footage on this particular trip, unfortunately. Had Arthur with me as well, so he's the one doing the filming. And these external shots have just been shot on the smartphone. So he's done a really good job actually holding that pretty steady. So working our way up over what I think is the last ridge, and you can see the hills in the distance there forming the edge of this valley. Just on the right here, there's a cracking little camp spot just down in there that you probably just caught a glimpse of. Certainly not big enough to put a camper trailer or anything like that in there, but if you had a small hiking tent, or if you had a rooftop tent on your car, you could probably sneak down in there, it would be a fantastic little spot to wake up in the morning. Facing east, the morning sun would come up over the hill. It would be outstanding. So there's one or two little sections like this. This is a little rocky, where you just need to take it slow and steady, so no particular high clearance needed, but you can sort of see from how much the car's actually moving around, climbing up over these rocks and the odd little hole here and there, that a little bit more caution is warranted. But this is a relatively short section on what is a drive that probably took us all of about maybe 2.5 hours from Strachan's campground right through to the eastern side of Halls Gap, or the Grampians. Another softer section here. As you can see, somebody's worn that down quite a little bit, and some rocks here right on the track. This is a reasonably tight little pinch. Some amazing colour in the rock there on the right hand side, and on the left for that matter. Not quite coming through in this frame, but yeah, you sort of get the idea. So this is the vision from the GoPro driving through that same section. There's Arthur filming us with a smartphone. I think he thought I might have run him over. And just to the right there, you get a little bit of vision of the rocks, but look, there's a lot more than that all the way along there. So this is the end of the Victoria Range Road, coming down to the turn off to the goat track. So it gets a little bit sandy here. You don't need particularly low pressures. It's only just this very small area here that's a little bit sandy, and it's not deep sand at all. Last time we came through there, I think that seemed like there was a bit more sand, but it's still it wasn't something to be concerned about. So from here, it's a fairly short climb up to the top of the ridge, and then you head over the other side and work your way zigzagging back down the side of the range, hence the name the goat track. Despite that, it's not particularly steep, it's not particularly difficult. It's yeah, pretty straightforward forward driving. And yeah, look, I really took my time over any of the obstacles. Again, keeping in mind I had my mum in the car with me. You can get a sense of one of the hills there straight ahead of us. That view was so much more spectacular. If I could have had the GoPro tilted up a little bit more, you would have had a much better view of that. And you can see again, there's still rock formations both sides of this track, right up to the edge of the track pretty much. So this is, I think, where we sort of swing around and start making our way back down the other side. All the way along this part of the track, we had great views out across the valley, which, as I've mentioned, you're just not getting the benefit of with the way I had the GoPro set up. I think it's actually tilted down even a little bit more by this point, so my bad. I'll have to keep that in mind for future videos. You get a little bit of a sense there as we swing around just how big that valley is. And as you can see, these tracks are basically two-wheel drive gravel roads. A little bit of a soft spot there on that one for some reason, but not of too much concern. They're fairly wide as well, so you know, even if you had to overtake somebody coming the other way, you wouldn't have too much concern. It probably looks narrower in the footage than it actually was. And actually, just watching this, it looks like I'm driving a lot closer to the edge than it felt. So some, yeah, decent cutaway there. You can see they've had to do a fair bit of work to cut these tracks in. And look, I've spent a lot of time over the years going to the Grampians, been to all the major sites, and there's some amazing things to see as parts of the Grampians, some great walks to go on. Definitely recommend checking out Mackenzie Falls and the Jaws of Death Walk and some of those well-known sites. But in terms of things that you can actually see from your car, this trip along the goat track is probably right up there with some of the best views and outlooks to be had anywhere in the Grampians, in my opinion. Now, as we come down here, there's a lookout. So like a lot of these bush lookouts, there's a very poorly defined parking area. It's not a formal lookout, there's no signage. They're heading up to the lookout on the side of the goat track here in the Grampians. Not the most defined walking track, but it does exist. Now, I've just dropped these still photos in from a trip a couple of years prior because unfortunately my phone ran out of battery or storage at that time, so I didn't actually get the footage that I thought I got of the view of the lookout. Hopefully you get the idea. Cracking lookout, you climb up on this nice big piece of sheetrock and you've got 180-degree views all the way across the valley. By the time we got there, the sun was getting overhead. It was probably getting closer to midday, and yeah, it was a really good time of day to be checking it out. And it's literally 30 meters from where we parked the car. It's a very easy run. So from there, a couple more zigzags down and then a straight run out to the Siphon Road. As you can see, it's not a very difficult track, so not any crazy four-wheel driving in this episode, but hopefully you've enjoyed this video, guys. Like the video if you liked it. Please subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate everyone who's been subscribing to the channel, and leave a comment down below. I really just wanted to take this chance. Obviously we live near the Vic High Country, so that's where most of our videos are shot, and this was an opportunity to bring you guys some content from somewhere other than the Victorian High Country, close to my home. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.